Right, so I've had 3 interviews and gotten 3 jobs. And the reason I've been told for each of those is words to the effect of because of the way that you hold yourself. I was the quiet kid at school. I didn't know how to make eye contact, make friends. For a long time, I didn't have any friends. And I didn't do very much to go from that to being the kind of person that goes into an interview, and for my software engineering job, they didn't even look at my CV because the director said to me, I don't know if you'll make a good software engineer, but you're the kind of person that we want at our company. So how did I do this? You need to cultivate confidence. And this is a pretty broad term, and it gets bounded around a lot. And you'll read a lot of different ways of growing it, but I think that it's split into 2 buckets. And those buckets are willpower and competence. Right, so why willpower and competence? Well, it's simple. You need the willpower to walk up to the person or go and do the thing. And competence, when you show up, you need to be able to do what you intend to do. So in the case of socializing, there's the girl at the bar that you want to say hi to, and you need the willpower to turn and say hello. But if you say hello and then you draw a blank and you start stuttering all over yourself and you tip your drink on her, then you're not very competent. And yeah, sure, you have the willpower to say hello, but she's just going to assume that you're crazy. So it hasn't worked out. But we'll focus first on willpower because that's half the battle. So how do you grow willpower? I think the best person to draw on for this is David Goggins. And the reason I write down his name is because this is his entire game. He is the king of willpower. And the reason I know this is because I watched a recent podcast with Andrew Huberman where he sat down with David Goggins and explained why he was able to do all the crazy things that he does. The ultramarathons, the pull-up world record, the smoke jumping. And what Huberman explained is that there is an area of your brain called the mid-cingulate cortex. And essentially how it works is every time that you do something difficult that you don't want to do, and that's the important bit, not just difficult, but difficult that you don't want to do, that part of your brain grows. And then the next time that you go to do something that you don't want to do, it's a bit easier. Now, the sticking point here is that, say, the thing that you don't want to do is you've been putting off doing that couch to 5k and you don't want to run. You hate running. Okay, so you realize that the way that you can grow your willpower is to pick that thing because it's the thing that you don't want to do. You start running and it sucks and your mid-cingulate cortex grows and eventually you get pretty good at running and you start enjoying it. Well, you're going to stagnate your gains. So what you need to do, you either have to find a new task that you don't like doing or somehow adapt your current task so that it is something that you don't want to do. So say, sure, you've gotten good at running, but you resent the idea of running in the rain. So you start running in the rain when it's raining. Okay, so that would be something that would help you build willpower. And these are going to have knock-on effects then in the other parts of your life where it comes to make the phone call that's important or go to the interview that's difficult. It's going to be easier for you because you've built the willpower to do it. And one other way of doing this, instead of picking one goal, say like getting good at running, which I would recommend, maybe once a month, pick something that you don't want to do and go and do it. So whether it's the first month, it's running, okay, you do it for a month, and then schedule on your calendar, okay, 1 month from now, I'm going to reassess, do I still not want to do running? Yes, okay, so we'll do it for another month. But if you started to enjoy it, you need to bring something in that's new. Another way that you can grow it is something that Andrew Huberman refers to as micro-sucks. And it's essentially just those small things that every day you know you're putting off that you don't want to do, whether it's calling somebody that you really need to call or taking out the trash, doing the dishes. The simple things that actually you don't realize that not only are you letting them stack up, you're also, by letting them slide, reducing your willpower. So if you can bring yourself to do these things, you're going to build it. Right, so say you've built up your willpower, you're now at the bar, you're able to turn to the girl and strike up a conversation. The next key point that I illustrated was you need to be competent. And this is where How to Win Friends and Influence People comes in. It is a fantastic resource. If there's any section of it that you were to read, just read the chapter on become a friendlier person. Because this will make you, if you understand it and practice it, this will make you competent in socializing. Now, the 3 main ones that apply to this context of software engineering are as follows. Right, so these are the ones that had the biggest impact for me. So you've got don't criticize, condemn, or complain. you probably have somebody in your life or in the office who every single time that they get work or a task or they have to do something, they complain about it. Or every time you see them, they like to complain about people they've been around, speak ill of them. These are self-destructive behaviors, and in the long run, given enough time, they're going to catch up with the people that take part in them. So what you want to do is start becoming aware of not just the people around you who are criticizing, condemning, and complaining, but every time that you do it as well. You can't control what the people around you are doing. You can only choose to move away from them. What you can control is what you do. So if you find this really difficult and you find that you're the kind of person that the second that things start going wrong, you like to start complaining, there's a really good, I'd actually recommend as an aside, there's a video by Jocko Willink. If you don't know how to deal with things going wrong, watch this video.
Direct subordinate's one of my guys that worked for me. He would call me up or pull me aside with some major problem, some issue that was going on, and he'd say, "Boss, we got this and that and the other thing." And I'd look at him and I'd say, "Good."
This is the kind of mindset that you want to build in order to achieve that. I'll link this video in the description. Right, so secondly, you have become genuinely interested in people. If you're working in a software engineering company, and to be fair, even if you're not, I can guarantee you that there are interesting people around you. You just need to ask. Even if everybody in your team doesn't interest you, there will be people in adjacent teams. So for example, I'm in biotech, so we have scientists that work at my company, and day to day, our jobs don't interlink at all. And yet I know all of the scientists at my company by name, and I have individual conversations and relationships with each of them. Why do I do this? Because I've actually cultivated an interest in each of these people. And the way you do this is just ask simple questions. If you're trying to introduce yourself to somebody at work, it's quite easy because you can fabricate a mundane question about their job, and it will come across as if you're just asking because it's relevant to work, even if it's not. And then from that, you can say, "Oh, have you got any plans this weekend?" Or if it's somebody that you haven't met before, just ask their name. And after their name, ask them what they did in order to be in the job they're in now. And I remember when I did this, when I first started at my company, and they were all PhDs with these incredible academic backgrounds who had done placements in America. And I just found myself asking question after question. And that's what ties in to the next point, which is being a good listener. You'll probably notice, if you start paying attention, that when you're in a conversation with somebody, you're waiting for your opportunity to speak next. And that is a habit that if you can break, you're going to completely transform all of your relationships, work and social. If you're genuinely interested in somebody, this one becomes interesting. And if you're finding it difficult to find something interesting to talk about, that's the game that you need to play. It's going to be a very small percentage of people that genuinely have nothing interesting to talk about. And if you can find it, if you find yourself listening to something that you're just completely disinterested in, try and move the conversation in a way where you can find other things about the person. What are their hobbies, for example? And now that you've cultivated this, what you're doing is you're practicing socializing, but also at the same time you're networking and you're building your circle at work. So when it comes to your actual team members, you're going to get better feedback and support. When it comes to people outside of your team that are just within the company, you're going to be more informed in business. So when it comes to software engineering, I don't even have to look at the backlog because the chances are I've spoken to the project lead at some point during the day, and I've spoken to some of the scientists who've been giving feedback to the project lead about what kind of changes need to be made within our system. So then when it comes to the meeting with my immediate team and my manager, I already have an informed decision and opinions on how we can move forward with some of our features and stories. And here's a really important one that I think people completely overlook. Work becomes more enjoyable. If you have good working social relationships, and I'm not saying waste your entire work day talking to people instead of doing your work, just on rotation, maybe once a day, try and spend 5 minutes to go and talk to somebody who you don't normally talk to and just see where it goes. Don't have any intentions behind it. And what you'll find is that social element is something that you're missing. If you're the kind of person that's spending 8 hours in front of a screen, this is important and it's going to build up your career. It's something that will work for you. And also it builds opportunities. So in your career, you'll notice that people take typically one of two paths. They either specialize or they go into management. Now, in both directions, this is going to give you an advantage. First of all, a lot of software engineers don't build these soft skills, and that's why we have a reputation as an industry of being nerds having the connotations of being socially awkward. If you can work on these things, sure, you may be far behind the people around you and your starting line is in a really difficult spot. But if you're working on it every day, you can guarantee that you're working on it more than everybody that you know, because few people have intention when it comes to building confidence. And right, so say later on you decide to specialize, you still need to be able to socialize. Even at your mid-level and junior level positions, you need to be able to communicate with your team so that they're more likely to give you the feedback and support that you need. And also when it comes to the important decisions that will lead you along your career path, like being in those salary negotiations and being in those interviews, and say then you get that promotion and you become, for example, a manager, you've been picked for this because you have the soft skills required to be a manager. If you go beyond into project management, you're going to be a diamond in the rough because you've got an engineering background and you're socially competent. So that's going to give you an edge against people who typically just have a management background who otherwise aren't specialized in engineering. And if you do decide to specialize, well, it's going to help with communication in your higher stakes situations. You know, suddenly your decisions are more important. You don't want to be the kind of person that when put in front of 10 people in a boardroom and you're told, okay, what do we do? You don't want to get flustered because you might make the wrong decision. And if you already have a working social relationship with most of the people in that room, suddenly it's a lot less scary because you know these people, you've chatted to them, you know their background, they're not just scary faces. Now, all of this is good, but being the person where the person in your interview says you're the kind of person that we want at this company, confidence is going to get you a lot of the way, but it's not going to get you all of the way. There are a lot of other facets of being a competent professional that play into this, and a major one that will help you outfocus and outwork and outperform the people around you is your personal fitness. So if you click my next video, I'll show you my framework of how you can go from untrained to noticeably good shape with very little time investment. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and I hope this helps.